I'm just throwing this to you, Charles. Who is Jaxson Dart as a prospect? What are we getting like from this kind of guy who seems to be a late media riser here?
The guys who are, because I watch a lot of college football. At no point during the season was Jaxson Dart talked about as a first round pick. Like, no one was saying that. Not a soul was saying that. I think even Sam Monson from formerly Pro Football Focus, he posted a chart the other day that said, basically all of Jaxson Dart's pre-draft hype has come since he's last played his last football game for Ole Miss. And man, dude, towards the end of the season, it got a little dicey for them. The one game that I come back to all the time with Dart that to me is so concerning is the game against Florida, where you get to the end of the game, and for those people who aren't like up to par on like what Lane Kiffin's offense is, it's like the guy in your Madden league that you just hate playing against. That's kind of what Lane's doing. It's just we're not doing things that are really replicable or in NFL offenses. We're just trying to call money plays, cheese plays, try to score as many points as possible. Maybe we'll play some defense on the back end. But when you start going back through Lane Kiffin's history, and Lane Kiffin, this is a guy who's been on the forefront of offensive coaching for over 20 years as an NFL coach and as a high-level coordinator and head coach for USC, Tennessee, now Ole Miss. The best quarterback he's put into the NFL is probably like Matt Barkley. And he's had some really, really good offenses. But none of these guys really make it in the league. And I think that's just because Lane's just here to score as many points as possible, and to keep his job, which I think is a fair way for him to view it, but it's not always a great way to develop quarterbacks. So the way that I'll start with Jaxson Dart, he's better than Matt Corral was. I will give him that because
good starting point.
Yeah, I was a little confused with the I was a little confused with the Matt Corral stuff. I got to be honest. I didn't really view him as a guy that seemed like he needed to get drafted in the top 100, and he still went that high. But with Dart, when it's open, he can hit the throws. But like I said, going back to that game in Florida, the field gets compressed, right? Because they need to come back on the last drive of the game. So you can't really work, your open field. We're gonna run like all these, double breaking routes to try and get someone deep. Like you kind of have to run something that's a little bit more standard because the defense is expecting to pass. Like they're not going to let themselves get beat over the top. So when it got compressed in the middle of the field on the final drive, man, he could have thrown like 3 or 4 picks on one drive. And it got scary. The accuracy was all over the place. Footwork was all over the place. And to me, that was kind of a more comparable scenario maybe to what he'll be seeing from NFL defenses where, yeah, you're not going to just run RPOs and just cheese your way all the way down the field and score 50 points and everyone's having a good time. You're going to have to play, a little bit more sophisticated style of football, which I just don't know if he's ready to just be dropped into an NFL offense today. And honestly, like with I guess some of the argument to get him in the first round is like tools, but I don't view him as really any more toolsy than like some of these other quarterbacks that have come out in the draft recently. Maybe he's more athletic and stronger arm than like his other Ole Miss counterpart, Matt Corral. But like he's not really comparing to like a Cam Ward in that case. So I just don't really get why we're doing this now. Because, if you go back to some of the mock drafts, when football was being played in December, he was like a third round pick, maybe a late second round pick. And Ole Miss, their season did not end well, and he played a role in part of their crash towards the end of the season where they ended up missing the SEC title game and the playoffs, even though they had to win it over Georgia. So I don't get it. It seems like a reach to me. I don't get why you're reaching for this guy. It's not like this is a spot where Eli Goose from YouTube says, I'm so hyped for the Jaxson Dart versus Mason Rudolph QB battle. But no, like, that's definitely in the cards, right? Because if you're in Pittsburgh, you're kind of striking out quarterback options. If you don't want to trade up, that might have to be your guy, which to me is just terrifying. I really don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know where you guys have him. You and Nate have him going in your mock draft, 10.0 at this point, whatever you guys are on. But Mel Kiper has him going 9 to the Saints.
Round. Oh, I would love that.
Well, Mel Kiper's got him going 9 to the Saints over at ESPN. Daniel Jeremiah's got him 21 to the Steelers, as Eli Goose just mentioned. So it seems like there's some buzz building that he could be, a damn first round pick. And man, 9th overall to the Saints. I don't know. I mean, I know that they have Derek Carr here. Well, yeah, as a Falcons fan, I'm sure you're excited about that. Like like you said, is he ready to be like a early starter? No way, dude. Like, I mean, I think that would be like your little nephew is like, he needs to learn to swim and you just go up and like push him into the deep end right away. Like that would be starting Jaxson Dart early on. Like he needs to play at some point. I get that, but he doesn't, I don't think he's got like the skills, the traits to be an early starter. And I mean, my God, on the Saints offense that we're showing right now, this is like a horror story. Like no way is he ready to be the Saints like day one starter. So I like behind a guy like Derek Carr, maybe like you give him a year and he develops, but I'm with you that I also don't see him as like a Jordan Love type, where Jordan Love, it was obvious like he needed work and he did end up sitting. And I think that ended up being good for him. But he had a lot of tools, and you can still see all the tools with Jordan Love on display. I don't necessarily see that with Jaxson Dart, even though I do like the way he is accurate against man coverage. Trey Harris has like absurd, production against man coverage, the Ole Miss receiver who we'll talk about at some point. And some of that is like, I think Dart layers it pretty well. He's pretty accurate, like throwing those deep passes against man coverage specifically. But like you mentioned with the offense, some of that is kind of designery, predetermined stuff. So I don't know. It's very
Looney
back
Tunes.
and forth with me on Dart. It is Looney Tunes. I don't think it's quite as Looney Tunes like a disgrace to football type like Tennessee. No, it's not. It's not quite as bad as Tennessee, but it is certainly it's up there in terms of college offenses, like the translation. So I don't know. Again, not a guy that I think is ready to start right away. But some teams probably going to talk themselves into it in the first round. I think the Steelers, that would be brutal. I mean, that's a pro style offense with Arthur Smith there. The learning curve would be huge. And again, you're in that situation. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback and you've Jordan loved him again, which he probably doesn't want to happen. But if like you don't have Aaron Rodgers, it's Mason Rudolph as the placeholder. Fans are going to be wanting him to start by week 6, which I think could be pretty rough.
Yeah, the Steelers are in a funny spot. Like, man, you went out and got DK Metcalf. You really have a quarterback yet. I don't know. It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. And look, they desperately need another wide receiver. But damn, you might be doing all this, spending all those picks off the line just to start Jaxson Dart. I hope that this gets clipped a couple of years from now and we're just horribly wrong because I'm looking out into the future and I'm realizing we kind of need some of these quarterbacks to hit, as we lost a big generation of good quarterbacks. So I hope it works out. I just don't really understand why it needs to be in the first round, unless we've just like totally lost all perspective on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's 21 years old. Quarterback thirst is real. And I do think if we're clipping this, years from now and we look like idiots, I think it will be because he sat behind a veteran and kind of learned and developed that way. Again, the Jordan Love comparison, but I just don't know if Jordan Love at times looks like a top 10 quarterback. I don't know that we are going to get that out of a guy like Jaxson Dart, even if he does sit and develop. So quarterback thirst is real. Somebody I think will end up ultimately taking him in the first round, but I think he'd be much more palatable as like a day 2 pick somewhere in that range.